Let us execute an immediate, sweeping analytical vector shift away from the West Coast Channel logistics of California police procedurals and island cold cases, and dive straight into the brutal, calculation-heavy tracking matrices of multinational syndicate bloodlines, weaponized corporate dynasties, and the intensely possessive world of an elite mafia heir running raw tactical alignment loops. We are crossing the threshold directly into the hyper-monitored, blood-stained velvet VIP lounges of New York high society, the exclusive procedural grid of an engineered dynastic marriage contract, and the lethal analytical parameters of an intense, survival-based underworld tracking matrix with Vicious Devil, the exceptional pulse-pounding masterpiece anchoring the globally dominant chart-popping Kings of Mafia universe by the absolute undisputed sovereign of high-velocity bratva fiction, visceral dark romance, and elite syndicate momentum, Michelle Hurd. This high-stakes narrative tracking sequence delivers an exceptional look at an operational crossroads, where a fierce, underestimated female protagonist asset running a blind survival loop, a powerful, dangerously territorial ancient crime family capo, and an absolute defense of a captive's final personal sovereignty metrics collide at terminal velocity. Let us map the strategic narrative grid. If you are an elite enthusiast of high-octane, slow-burn dark romances, where an endangered, hyper-observant female protagonist must navigate an absolute maze of corrupt institutional family politics, deceptive blood aristocracies, and a deadly ring of active parental gaslighting, while running a blind survival loop inside a completely compromised global ecosystem, where an analytical mind uses deep behavioral profiling, calculated possessive boundaries, and absolute mental stamina to outmaneuver an invisible predatory elder network, and where the author utilizes an incandescent, ruthless mafia kingpin forces an innocent heiress into a punitive marriage, only to become her most lethal protector, diagnostic routine, to test our hero's structural limits. This book is engineered to lock you in. Hurd completely dominates the dark underworld brutality meets unrivaled possessive devotion dynamic, capturing the heart-racing intellectual momentum, suffocating institutional paranoia, and heavy deductive depth popularized by genre vargs like Cora Riley, Danielle Laurie, Rena Kent, and J.T. Geisinger, while treating realistic syndicate transformation logistics, complex anti-hero alignment arcs, and protective high society extraction grids with absolute technical mastery. The narrative tracking grid zeroes in on the highly volatile, calculation-heavy baseline of our central legendary powerhouse asset, Alexei, operating under a severe calculation-heavy handicap of massive family legacy exposure, deep-seated existential vulnerabilities, and a hyper-visible targeting profile by his species' ruling elder capos. Behind Alexei's rigorous territorial footprint logs and tense financial ledgers lies an intricate matrix of hidden faction allegiances, deeply buried historical secrets, and sharp, high-stakes tactical maneuvers. Alexei's collective defense mechanisms are locked down tight behind a lifetime of outrunning mortal limitations and institutional family constraints, his entire analytical focus strictly consumed by monitoring sudden threat vectors from rival ancient factions, parsing complex behavioral shifts from his powerful, fierce parental assets, and shielding his vulnerable operational autonomy nodes from being entirely wiped out by a ruthless elder cleanup offensive. The spark ignites when an unexpected, high-frequency structural anomaly breaches his active scanning perimeter. A calculated arranged marriage alignment forces the innocent and highly protected female asset, Arya, into his immediate cross-channel trajectory. Alexei initially assumes a cold, adversarial profiling baseline, treating her as an administrative piece on his dynastic chessboard. However, as the hidden rival family killer network's calculation-heavy elimination phases enter an increasingly lethal terminal tier, a series of suspicious administrative sabotage attempts, targeted coven-style frame-ups, and calculation-heavy media ambushes threaten to permanently eliminate Arya from the active living registry. The official diagnostic metrics of the global tracking centers flash white-hot when his defensive maneuvers and raw possessive output reveal that his investigation into her family's hidden betrayal matrix is radically, impossibly altering the underworld's historical balance of power. The standard boundaries of routine criminal secrecy and peaceful underground compliance protocols crumble, and our central protagonist run completely out of standard diplomatic escape vectors. They are thrust directly into an active, invisible war across continents, where deceptive elite syndicates, highly manipulative first-generation progenitors, and a calculation-heavy underground network launch aggressive countermeasures to permanently suppress their survival data stream. The tactical parameters instantly explode as their historical and survival warfare turns completely active, transforming the ancestral estates, Dark City underground club peripherals, and massive penthouse chambers into a volatile psychological pressure cooker and a physical battle zone. Our protective, arrogant protagonist is forced to deploy his massive intuitive tradecraft, ancient speed metrics, and raw possessive stamina to maintain his boundary lines before the next competitive cleanup phase permanently deletes their progress. Alexei is purposeful and resolute, determined to deploy his massive intuitive tracking skills, overwhelming primal aura, and persistent analytical dominance to break her perimeter and preserve her focus, only to realize her hidden inner grit matches his own dark nature step for step. Every midnight archive excavation, every silent choice to stand off against an ancient cartel master behind standard security barriers, and every intense moment of channeling raw, unyielding survival mechanics chips away at her reliance on original peaceful rules. What follows is an exceptional, high-stakes war of perspective, tactical position, and raw human grit. We watch the dark elite's deceptive perimeters completely unwrapped as Herd reveals that the true victory requires more than just surviving an initial setup or managing a toxic forced partnership. It demands an absolute, uncompromising defense of individual dignity, personal truth, and systemic survival against a cold, calculating machine of institutional hierarchy and high society supremacy. While our central characters smooth over each other's psychological and defensive blind spots with devastating analytical force, creating a fiercely protective, absolute web of dark possessive loyalty around their volatile union, a brutal series of close-quarters tactical confrontations and high-stakes evidentiary breakthroughs shifts the clock into its terminal phase, proving that historical emotional hazards have tracked them to their final outpost. To survive the impending lock-grid trap and permanently secure their sanctuary, a resilient heroine must unleash an absolute, unyielding defense of her final boundary lines. It is a dark mafia romance, forced proximity suspense, organized crime mystery, high-velocity contemporary noir puzzle that treats deep relational logistics and intense structural friction with elite precision. The tension here burns with a sharp, calculation-heavy intensity. We are talking about that high-frequency, one whispered confession triggers a fatal ballroom showdown energy, where a sudden pause during an active franchise tactical briefing, an unexpected shift in an adversary's protective physical posture during a high-stakes interrogation confrontation, or a heavy, possessive realization that an elite mafia protector has completely mapped your personal biological coordinates, carries massive structural weight. Herd writes with an exceptionally fresh, vivid, and beautifully blunt voice, perfectly capturing the heavy, oppressive atmosphere of a private executive vault before a major corporate takeover, and the distinct, subtle scent of polished mahogany, expensive gunpowder residue, fine leather, vintage whiskey, crushed roses, cold rain-slicked pavement, spilled copper, and pure, unadulterated suspense. What truly elevates this benchmark entry into elite territory is the author's unmatched ability to balance complex, high-stakes relationship dynamics and genuine protective power tradecraft, alongside a breathtaking narrative pace and deep emotional hooks. Our protagonists don't rely on unbelievable, superficial Hollywood superhero action tropes. Their immense situational intelligence, strategic patience, and profound survival instincts match the complexity of the chaotic modern corporate and high society underworld they dominate step for step, making their choices to risk everything feel profoundly authentic and deeply gripping. The pacing moves with calculated momentum, tracking intense conversational standoffs and breathtaking tactical breakthroughs before ratcheting up to an absolute, jaw-dropping conclusion that delivers total, hard-earned advancement to their horizon. Vicious Devil is the definitive pro-level upgrade your high-stakes contemporary fiction and intense dark romance library demands right now. It is elegant, immensely fast-paced, and utterly unputtable. It proves that when your entire sanctuary is targeted by a cold, calculating institutional monster, the most revolutionary play you can execute is to lock your perimeters, trust your elite survival training, and fight like hell alongside your network to rewrite the data. So secure your personal reading sanctuary, review your emotional defensive perimeters, open your Kindle, and prepare to track the fleet.